Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I'm going to be talking about a very serious subject matter here because lately I've been seeing a lot of posts shared on Facebook where there's either a young girl missing, two young girls missing, as with the case of two girls in Detroit, both went missing at the same time. Women, teenagers, black, they're all black, they're turning up missing. And I want to bring some understanding to all of this because it's time for us to be a lot more alert than what we are. Right now, I feel like we are just kind of sleepwalking as a people. We are in the daze, okay, walking in the daze. And they call it the Walking Dead, okay? The Walking Dead because you see that the people are animated, but they're walking around clueless as if they are not aware of what's happening in their environment until they set their hearts on a target that's of interest to them. Anyone who has seen the show The Walking Dead noticed that whenever they are fixated on a target that is of interest to them, something that they want, which is a live, living creature, they go after that, but everything else is just nothing there. They're not aware of the beauty of the sky. They don't care about how the birds look and how the sunshine and the green grass. None of that is of concern to them because they only have their minds on one thing. And so I feel like our people are going about like the Walking Dead. When we see the number of young girls and women that are missing from the black community, to me it's a lot more than just sharing. I see a lot of people sharing these posts on Facebook, right? That is one way to spread the word about these missing women and girls, okay? But for me, prevention is where we need to focus. How is it that these young women and these girls are coming up missing? And many of them are vanishing without a trace. Now, from time to time, we will get an update like we've seen a couple of cases where bodies were found, okay? But sometimes they are not getting these updates at all. Months and even years go by and these young women are never turning up. And so we've got to ask ourselves, what can we do to deal with the situation a lot better? This is something major, family. This is not something that is just, oh, another one is missing. We look at it, we read the story, we sob about it a little bit, we say, oh, what a shame. And then we just go back to our day. Our people as a whole have got to be a lot more proactive in our own survival, a lot more proactive in our own protection. It's not just the job of one or two or three, okay? I do take my hat off to those who share the post, but again, my thinking is that we need to prevent these things from happening. And how can we do that? Now, I always hear stories whenever someone tries to bring a solution to, or even an idea to a problem or an issue that we're having, there's always, this pushback as if, well, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do this. But when something this tragic happens, you say to yourself, we wish we had did more to protect. Now, I understand that our people are stubborn. I have people that I know and love very close to me that I have said, my husband have said on many occasions, don't be out here loafing about in the street at night. It's not worth it. Get home. And I know not all of these things are happening at night, but a lot of these things are happening at night. Our young women and our young girls out here by themselves, unprotected. Do you not see what's happening? Now, the one that happened in Detroit, where the two girls were taking out trash, that just shows you just how quick these things can happen. It shows you just how quick they can happen, family. Now, what are we going to do about these things? Are we going to continue to cry about these things and wonder and report these things, talk about these things, share these things with a simple share button on Facebook? Or are we going to start brainstorming and saying, what can we do to protect our own people? Now, there were a few stories that, to me, were very obvious. Now, these happened years ago, and I'm just going to share them with you really quick. Okay, there's a couple of stories, and these are personal stories. And I'm sharing these stories, and I have talked about at least one of them before on a number of occasions, and probably the other two, because we talk about so many things over the years that I know some of you have heard these stories once, twice, maybe 3 times. But we have new viewers who may not have heard these things and don't always go through the archives. But being careful is something that we must do, family. We've got to look out for one another. We've got to share important information with one another to encourage one another to understand the time that we are living in and where we are in the land of our captivity. Anyway, the first story I'm going to share is when we lived back in Michigan. We lived in the country in Belleville, and the road that we lived on was a very, 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 very long country road, and it was a dirt road. Okay. And of course, you know, in the morning times when the kids were going to school, it is very dark. Okay, very dark. And even if it wasn't dark, it's early. Our oldest children, before we moved here, they went to public school. And then from public school, of course, we talked about how we eventually put them into Christian schools afterward because of some incidents at public school. But prior to that, when they were in public school, they were catching the bus. Okay, now, our oldest daughter, when she was catching the bus would go right past our house just like this, okay, going from this end to that end. So it goes right past our house every day. And so they made her bus stop to where it was like, I'm going to say at least 1/4 of a mile that way. We're talking about a long country road. And I'm going to take a guess and say the road was possibly 2 to 3 miles long. And I'm just taking a guess as to how long this dirt road was. Anyone who knows country roads know that they can be very long. And so her bus stop was so far from our house to where we were like, we're not sending our baby out here. Initially, when she first started to catch the bus, we would just drive her to her bus stop and just sit there and wait till they got there. But then we called the school and we said, well, you go right past our house. When you pick up, first of all, you're picking her up in front of a place where there are no children. Okay? And then you're going to go right past our house to go down to the next stop. We said, we need you to add our house as a stop, so our daughter doesn't have to go down here to be picked up. They gave us a lot of pushback. We were like, well, what's the point? You are going past our house anyway. We need you to pick her up right here. Okay? Because it is dangerous. It's dark. I said, not only is there a concern about people, but even stray animals. So we kept on pushing until they gave us what we wanted. They stopped in front of our house and they picked up our daughter. Because the reason why I shared that story is because I remember there was an incident down in Texas where they said that a young black girl was standing at her school bus stop waiting for her bus on a long country road. Now, this young girl wasn't kidnapped, but she was raped and murdered and her body dumped on the side of this country road. And so, family, listen. Back then, you know, this was a long time ago. Our daughter, you know, I forget, I think she was in the 1st grade. We were proactive. We were like, look, she's not standing out here. And if you're going past our house anyway, you're going to pick her up. You know, we didn't know anything about homeschool at the time, but all we knew was that if you're going to drive past our house, I don't want my daughter standing out here this early in the morning. And she doesn't have to. When you're driving, you're behind past her anyway. You see, because it is dangerous. Just like the story I shared with you about the young girl down in Texas who this terrible thing happened to. Now, so many times, I'm pretty sure that there are many, many incidents just like that. Remember the movie A Time to Kill? something very similar. Little girl walking by herself, and these, I don't even know what to call them, these things kidnapped her, raped, sodomized, beat, and abused, pissed on her, and left her body for dead on the side of a road. We've got to be more proactive with the protection of our women and children. And I'm going to say our men too. All of us need to look out for each other. Now, I know that it's the man's job to look out for the women, but I am of the thought that we've got to look out for one another. Okay? We've got to look out for one another. Now, the other story I want to share with you all, this involved my husband and myself. At the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, Rebecca. Okay? And we would take a walk on this long country road. That was our exercise together. We would walk all the way to one end and then walk back to our home, which our home was like in the middle. And so the walk was very long that way and very long back. But again, it was some good exercise for both of us. But let me tell you what happened. It was like 6 a.m. in the morning that we would begin our walk. And so it was very, very quiet. Not a lot of traffic. Very early in the morning. A lot of people still sleep, you see. And we're just taking our little walk. Very quiet. We see a pickup truck. And as we see this pickup truck, it sees us and it starts to speed up. And so we're like, And not only does it speed up, because we're on this side of the road, this pickup truck then comes to our side of the road and is speeding up even faster. And so we didn't know what the heck was about to happen. We jumped down, me pregnant and my husband with me, we jumped down into a ditch to keep from being hit by these, I don't know what you call them. I don't even know what to call them. But these two young white men, they look to be in their late teens, early 20s. They pulled over on the side of the road after we jumped down into the ditch. Okay, I know some of you are hearing this story again because you've heard it before. I'm sharing it with those of you who have not heard this story so you know and understand why I feel the way I do living in this country. But anyway, down in the ditch, I'm pregnant. I can barely move. I have to jump in a ditch to keep from being hit by these two demons. They pull over to the side of the road, look down at us as we're in the ditch, and they're laughing their devilish heads off as if something funny happened. Now, let me just say this to you all. Things could have gotten worse. I thank Yah that they just looked at us, laugh, and they kept it moving. Now, what if we didn't jump in the ditch? We could have been two bodies on the side of the road. That's one thing. What if they had weapons or guns, and they said, even though you went down into the ditch, we're going to take our guns out and blow you away? Now, you have those who come on our channel constantly, and they want to tell us about ourselves like we are hateful and we're this and we're that. But they won't make any comment about the two things that I just told you. Where the girl down in Texas lost her life. Where these demons threatened my life and my husband's life. They won't say anything about those things. Their biggest concern is the fact that I'm talking about it. That shows you the kind of mindset that we are dealing with. Unrepentant reprobates. This is why our people need to open up their eyes and understand what is going on. Our young girls and our women turning up missing like this. You have to understand that there is something very sinister behind this. A lot of people say, don't jump to conclusions, don't speculate. Well, say that to the countless dead bodies and women that are gone. Their families don't know where they are. Some of their bodies have never been recovered. But you're saying don't speculate, don't assume, you don't know. Well, let me tell you something. When you live in a country where precedents have already been set on certain actions against certain people by certain people, I can afford to make some assumptions. Now, I can assure you that many won't like this. I don't care. My biggest concern is my people. The young girls that are missing, the women that are missing. I need to add another element to this as well. I've seen a number of people talking about this on social media. Right now, there is an increase in people. They don't want to be called him or her these days. People, they. There is an increase in people wanting to have womb implants so that they can have babies. So where are they getting these wombs from? This question has been asked by many. It's been brought up by many. Where are they getting these wombs from? If you look at the missing black bodies and the increase in womb transplants, you can draw an amazing parallel to the two. This is why we need to get our heads out of the sand, family. We need to stop walking around in la la land like we don't know what the... We need to stop pretending like we don't know what the hell is going on, family. It is what it is, okay? Things are happening, and we have got to take heed. We've got to do whatever we can to protect our babies, okay? Now, there will always be those that say you can't be with them all the time. I know this, but do whatever you can. I've told my older children, okay? And people that aren't even my children, people that I know, family, friends, I've told people, be careful. Don't be out at night. Me and my husband, both. We used to say that all the time. And, you know, our people, they always give you pushback. They don't understand that you're coming from, you're not trying to control anyone. You're not trying to scare anyone. You're just saying, look, be careful. And if you don't have to be out there, then don't. You know, my husband, I've shared many times where when we lived in Michigan, I used to always say to him, don't be out at night, okay? Don't be stopping at gas stations and stores and things of that nature. And he got a couple of wake-up calls because he was out at night just making quick, simple stops that he really didn't have to make in areas that were very questionable areas. But when he got home, he said, baby, you know what, you were right. I shouldn't be stopping at these places. This guy almost got me in the city of Detroit. And so it is what it is, family. When it comes to protecting ourselves, we have to do what we have to, or what we can as well. If we can help not being out by ourselves, then we should do that. So many of our people just don't get it. They just don't get it. And I understand if you're working and stuff like that, you have to do what you have to do. Our son, he gets off really late. And he works a good distance from here, a good distance. And so we pray every night that the Most High, we pray that the Most High brings him home safe. You see, because things are happening. And we've even asked him, hey man, you don't need to be stopping at no store, no gas station at night. Do all of that stuff before you go to work, you know. We've got to be just as proactive in our survival and safety as we are with anything else. Okay? Again, when it comes to our young girls and our women, we've got to be more vigilant, family. Things are happening. They need wounds for these people who need womb transplants. And so where do you think they're getting them from? They're not going to the Ukraine to get it. They're not going to Sweden to get it. They're not going to the UK. They're not going to the Netherlands. Where do you think they're getting them from? Let's learn how to put two and two together, family, and stop being so ignorant. To be ignorant is to ignore the obvious. That's why the scripture says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And with that, I will say, shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.